In this video, Take the Shot, we're going to go through shooting for rifles and machine guns. In tanks and yanks, there are two times shooting happens, either in turn phase 1 or in turn phase 4, except for rifles, which can shoot in both. All other weapons shoot only once, either in turn phase 1 or in turn phase 2. In this case, shooting is going to occur in turn phase 4. Okay, here's a basic shooting example for rifle fire. In this case, we have a group of Americans, which are 11 figures. Okay, and their target will be Germans in the trench line here to the left, and they're going to shoot at those Germans. They're within range, which is 20 inches, as I said, and they are going to count for each 3 figures. And if you notice, the stands are 3 figures per stand. That just happens to be the way I did it. It could be individual figures. So we have 11 figures, but shooting rifles, for each infantry unit, you count each 3 figures that can shoot rifles. And in this case, we have 11 figures, as I said, but as a total for the unit, but only 3 stands of 3, or if you divide 3 into the 11, you would have 3 stands that are able to shoot. So they're within range, and for each 3 figures, we're going to roll 1d6 die. We're going to ignore those 2 extra figures as they're less than 3, except when there remains only, for example, if all these men had been killed and these guys say were defending, then in this case you roll 1 dice for whatever remains in the unit if they make their morale. Okay, so with that said, okay, we're going to determine if the unit, we're going to select the target, okay, which in this case is the Germans in this trench, okay. We know that they're within 20 inches or less, which it can be found on page 33 in the rules. Count the figures shooting, which is 9, so we're going to roll 1 dice for each stand of 3 or group of 3. And we roll 1d6 die rather than a d10 die. And okay, my roll result was this. We got 9 figures shooting, so that means 3 d6 dice. I rolled the dice, and I refer to the rifle fire chart on page 33. The roll was a 6, a 3, and a 5. So I got 1 kill with the 6, no effect with the 3, and 5 no effect. So I remove 1 figure, or somehow mark the German figures, which are in the trench here, and I would mark 1 figure as being eliminated. Okay, so let's see if we can get a close-up of that. Probably I'm not low enough. Okay, and that's where the rounds went. All right, so with that done, we know we've killed 1 enemy. The Germans could shoot back, but that's pretty much how shooting's done with rifles, so I'm not going to belabor the point. And had this been in turn 1, I would not have to mark the Americans as having shot, because rifles can shoot in both phase 1 and phase 4. If I would inflict on the Americans or the Germans 3 casualty figures, then they would have to take, from shooting, I would have to take a morale test, which we'll go through at another time. Now let's look at machine gun fire. In this case, we have a German machine gun right there. It has 3 figures, and let's see if we can get a close-up of that. Okay, so there's 3 figures, and they're going to shoot at those Americans coming at them, okay? So, let's see. And again, if this is phase 1, we would use some kind of marker and mark them as having shot, because they either shoot in phase 1 or phase 2. Now we're going to have 2 German machine guns in this case shooting, and one is here, as I stipulated and marked, and then the other one is back here on a reverse slope. Okay, and again, the target is going to be the Americans. So, here's what we do. The heavy machine gun with 3 figures designates its target. We measure the distance, which is also, again, found on page 96. I'm sorry, excuse me, 33. Their range is 96 inches, which is across the board, of course. I'm going to roll 1 D10, because machine gun fire effect uses a D10. And then I refer to the machine gun effect chart on page 33. Again, the roll is a 9 and 2 casualties are inflicted. So in this case, with the Americans, what I can easily do is just remove the last 2. Now, they did not get 3 casualties, so they do not have to take a morale test. Oops, like the way I did that? Okay, now, with this gun on the reverse slope, okay, there are so many observers, and the guns are so positioned that machine guns at this point in time were actually used much like artillery, okay? So they could sweep the field, and they would have field markers and such out there. And so that's how we do the machine gun fire. Now the German light machine gun, which I just panned away from, which is right there, which is on a reverse slope, in this case, the target is a tank. Okay, that tank there. Now, it's within the 96 inches. We've designated the target. We've checked the range. We roll 1 D10 die. We refer to the machine gun fire on tanks chart, which is page 34. The roll is a 9. 1 machine gun on the tank is knocked out. So now what I do, because there's a machine gun right here in the hall, and they're head on, so he gets a marker, okay, as having knocked out that gun. Now you could also use a chart or have a diagram with a tank on it and mark the guns as they're knocked out. Let's see here. We mark the gun knocked out. If the tank machine gun had not fired in turn phase 1 shooting, then it can fire. It can return the fire. And in this case, we would use the same chart we used against the infantry, which is a machine gun, a general machine gun effect chart, which is, let's see if I can get that there. Okay, and in this case, if he rolls a 9, he would inflict 2 on the machine gun, which the tank firing back, so he would in effect knock out that machine gun, even though he can't see it. He would spray that entire area with his own machine gun fire, or shoot a cannon if he had not shot in turn phase 1. And that's about it for general shooting. There are other things such as flamethrowers, and we'll go through artillery in another Take the Shot video later. Thank you very much.